We are about a mile from Winthrop, which is a D1 baseball program, in an 11,000 square foot warehouse. And actually had Nate out for a private clinic when he was in Charlotte for his first ever Charlotte clinic a few months ago. And through Tony, through Nate, and through actually the Charleston Southern hitting coach, Coach Tuig, who knows Greg, got reconnected with these guys on the academy concept because they knew that I had the facility. And why do this? Why am I so pat? Why am I wearing a Trosky hat right now? Because I'm not a Trosky employee, to be fair. I'm Ryan Smith, owner and founder of the Hit Mill, and I work in healthcare during the daytime. But I really love Nate Trosky. I love the way he talks. I love how he teaches the physical game. I love how he teaches the mental game. He's one of the only six-tool trainers in the world, best infield coach in the world, bar none. And I love his methodologies, right? So if I want my son to grow up in a program, I want it to be a Trosky program.
It's just really cool to see all these things wrapped up into one thing. And I think we talked about, we compartmentalize different parts of our day, but at the end of it, when we compartmentalize it, we give ourselves space to figure out, like, it all comes back to us as humans, and we're trying to build and we're trying to create the next generation of amazing human beings. And just to be a part of what Trosky's doing is really exciting. Your guys' mission is something that I believe strongly in, and it's marrying three of the things that I believe strongly in: education, athletics, and servant leadership. And I'm just excited to be a part of it, and excited to, hopefully teach all these kids how these things are separate yet all work together, just like a team does. There's 9 individual players playing, but they all have to play together in order for them to get to the highest pinnacle. And that's, I think, what we're trying to do here with Trosky.
What was it like when you talked to Chase, your little guy, that and told him that this was an option?
He he's like, wait, I get to go to school at a training facility. I get to have the coach we've identified in Rock Hill. They're unbelievable. That what their credentials are out of this world, and he really likes them. So it's hard coaching your own kids. So I send him off to those coaches, and he loves them. So he's like, those are going to be my coaches and my teachers. We have obviously a certified teacher on hand. He's pumped, and some of his really good friends have signed up to go with him. Some of his teammates on his travel team that I coach are going to be going there. So he's fired up because, again, it's like, when they do school enrollment and everybody does their messages like, hey, what teacher did you get? Like, you hope your friends got the same teacher, right? Well, in this case, of course, they're all going to the same classroom, right? So, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, you can't design anything better than that. But the other thing is, I just feel like school's so broken. You should be able to choose where your kids go to school. You should be able to assess the teachers. They should be able to learn in a great environment. And we get to provide all that in one place. So as I step back and think about when I was a kid, or for my kid, who wouldn't want to go to school with all their best friends who are like-minded, who play baseball, and instead of filling all that dead time with movies and miscellaneous things, fill the time of education, which can be done. If for those that have homeschooled, that the actual school time is 2 to 3 hours. You can get everything done in that time, and then use the rest of the time to just be a dude and train and get stronger and bigger. And I told Greg, my vision down the road is 6 months or a year from now, the boys that go to the Trosky Academy in Rock Hill are going to be walking around. People are going to say, who is that? Why are they so different? They're built different. They walk different. They flow different. You've seen guys that have done 5 Trosky camps. They field the ball differently. They got the 3/4 angle, the 3 o'clock angle. They're just smooth as butter. So that's what I want. I want these boys with like minds going to school together, having their own dedicated teacher in a virtual environment.
The thought that comes to my mind is an ecological approach, which is, instead of having everything siloed, even in the educational piece, I think this is an opportunity where we can allow those students to see the transitions and see how everything is synergistically within each other. There's the academic side of things, there's the faith and character side of things, there's the athletic side of things, and all of those things can go together. And we're trying to build a human that is well-rounded, completely holistic, and that's what really excites me. That's what's very difficult to do in public education, and I think that's what we're doing with Trosky, especially in Rock Hill, with Ryan Smith and everybody involved. Is we're going to have the ability to make sure we can individualize the education for what the student needs, not just for the whole academic year, not just for their entire experience through the academy, but on a day-to-day basis, because those things fluctuate. Like regular adults, we have good days, bad days. We have days where we're able to focus, think. Those high school kids, those middle school kids, they're on that fluctuation even more. So being there in a smaller school environment where we're having the ability to help and aid in every single subject, in every single development capacity, whether it's faith and character based or it's athletics, we kind of get a sense of how to know that child, how to know that athlete. And I'm really excited about being able to help to do that with understanding and getting to know those kids, building those relationships, being able to throw empathy in there, and all the things that kind of they don't get in a typical school setting, a typical educational environment, in a typical team setting where you have time constraints, you have yearly constraints, calendar constraints. This is everything under one roof, and we're able to really allow the student to learn how everything meshes and intertwines with each other. And then I think the other thing Greg said that was perfect is getting out there and being hungry learners. That's important. It's not necessarily just learning everything you need to get to the next level. It's learning how to solve problems, and it's learning how to seek out higher level problems so you can continuously solve problems and move forward. I think just laying out the expectations of what that academic period looks like is extremely important. So they understand what the expectations for the day are, their work is, because there's going to be a varying amount of individualized academic plans. The exciting thing for me to think about is being able to walk through, be in the room for 2.5, 3 hours a day, helping each athlete or each student at that time, rather, work on what they need to work on. For me, it's exciting because I seem to thrive more when I'm being very rangy. So I'll be able to help out, student one with this, student two with that. After that, with the nutrition stuff, that's another thing I'm really excited about because I'm very passionate about nutrition. So during lunch, I think is a great time to kind of have some educational pieces with that, and how we can fuel our body, how we can eat for recovery, how we can eat for performance, how we can eat for longevity, because there's different aspects to each of those. They can be done together, but there's also very specific things we can do depending on what we want to achieve with our body. And then the tools aspect of the game, just practicing baseball, very, very excited about that because we can actually change these players' lives as far as baseball goes. Because every single day we're going to be able to watch them, we're going to be able to tweak things, we're going to be able to develop a little bit of individuality into it on what they need. Where's their ceiling? Where's their floor? What are their lowest hanging fruits? And then strength, conditioning, speed, all of that's extremely important because, the best abilities are availability and reliability. And if we're injured, or whether it's physically or mentally, we're not going to be able to give our best effort in any aspect of life. So being able to train those things is going to be really, really exciting. And then just being able to bring everything back together at the end of the day and a culmination of what we've done previously is going to be something I think that eventually all of these students are going to see the worth and value in, because they're going to see that it's not just little bits and pieces of I'm going to first period, I'm going to second period, none of this relates, and then I'm just trying to get through my day to go to practice. They're going to see how everything stacks on top of each other, and then it's helping them to become the best version of themselves possible.
So we got an 11,000 square foot training facility, includes cages, the TrackMans, the hit tracks, and a weight room, which I feel is really important to baseball development at this age.
Number one, when I come at it from a training standpoint for an athlete, it's always about injury prevention and making the body robust enough to withstand all of the needs and stressors of the sport and that season. Those are the first things. From there, I think it's important to look at movement in general. How does an individual move? Because sometimes we can program for an athlete with warm-ups or corrective exercises that are going to help to decrease or eliminate their compensatory patterns, which could increase the risk of injury. We could do that maybe in the warm-up. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we can attack movement issues in the weight room. Sometimes we can attack skill issues in the weight room. So getting an understanding of their global movement, their general performance and general physical preparedness and movement is extremely important. Once we get a sense from that, then putting as an athlete on a basic strength program is a really easy way to then figure out, all right, what else do we need to do with them? Is it a mobility issue? Is it an agility issue? Is it a speed or power issue? Is it a force production issue? And from there, then you can start to really individualize those plans for certain athletes. Because as Eric mentioned, like some athletes aren't going to need strength. You know, there's a ceiling and a floor that you operate in, and some guys are twitchy guys, so they might not need to develop the strength as much as other guys that, you know, you look at somebody that doesn't have that athleticism or twitchiness, they may need a little bit more strength because we need to increase the strength base. That way we can increase the power base and we can increase the speed base. So being able to look at all that's really important. And then within that, you have to be able to periodize that throughout the year. And then you also have to think about where are we in our season and what are our goals. So if you're going to increase your baseball specific training or your development of your tools, you're going to do like a bat speed program. You're going to work on developing throwing velocity or hitting really specific pitches, and you're really going to attack the nervous system and you're going to attack the specific skills that you need in the game. You're going to have to pull back on the other areas or modalities of your training. So being able to do all of that and also understanding, I'm going to tie it back into the educational piece. We're going to know when those stressful periods are. So we know that, hey, this was a really stressful period of time academically. We're going to pull back on some of the strength stuff this week. We're going to pull back on the volume of our skill work. And we're going to do a little bit more, maybe, you know, rest and relaxation. We're going to talk about the mental side of things. We're going to do some deep breathing. We're going to learn how to control our breathing and control our heart rate, because that's going to help us recover physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially. So being able to take all of those things into consideration with the training is really important. And when everything's piecemealed together, from school to baseball practice to your pitching coach to your hitting coach to your personal trainer, they're not communicating with each other. Very seldom do those people have the time or energy or desire to communicate with all those pieces. Here, we're going to be able to do it because we're seeing these kids every day, and we can communicate with the parents, let them know how things are going. It's just a match made in heaven.
You know, how do you teach infield? How do you teach how to properly field a ground ball and not just run, stop, catch, throw? And I started Googling and just finding these Trosky videos ever. I was like, oh my, like, why didn't I have YouTube when I was growing up so I could have learned this? And just fell in love with the methodologies. I'm so excited about it. And then we've got something in South Carolina that's applicable here. It's actually called South Carolina Connections. It's free to any South Carolina resident as a virtual school program. And it's not homeschool, it's actually a charter school. So they're eligible to play. And I did see a question from Gage. They're eligible to play for any of their school sports if they want, because it's a charter school put on by the state. So Fort Mill happens to have, where we live, happens to have some of the best schools in South Carolina. I still want my son to be educated here. But we're state champs last year, Catawba Ridge High School. I want my son to have the opportunity to play high school football, basketball, baseball if he chooses. And I've got kids coming to the Trosky Academy here who play basketball, and they want to play basketball. They want to play football, and they can have all that through that South Carolina Connections option too.